Good morning and welcome to Prem's Corner with Daily Technical Update. It is the 19th of November and we'll start with Nvidia this morning, and we will most likely also talk about it tomorrow morning because they are planning to release earnings in the aftermarket. Aftermarket is closing today, so that will be really interesting. But let's just recap of what it looks like just on the technical picture. Well, yesterday it closed below the lower rising trend line, which is not so alarming. The more interesting part is that the RSI on the daily and on the weekly is showing really divergence here, so indicating we are in a very stretched and trend exhaustion, uptrend exhaustion. So there is indications, earnings or not, that we could see lower levels on Nvidia, unless of course it comes out with a blowout earnings announcement once again. So let's see about that. So you see there's some support here at 128.74 and a little bit here around the, and I'll actually put it there. So this is the support area here, 131.60, 128.74. As you can also see here, medium term also massive divergence. So, but it hasn't really formed a top and reversal pattern. You can say there is some here. There's a little bit of a bearish engulfing here going on. Looks like there's one here too, but I don't think it took out that entirely. So it is. I would be a little bit cautious. Wait and see. Also during today's session, I think there will be wait and see also for the earnings right there. We have S&P 500 bouncing a little bit in yesterday's session and continuing to bounce a little bit here. Pre-market, you can see it bounce from the 50% retracement. Just above the gap area here, just touching it, and I will actually draw a trend line here. You see that's the gap area down to this gap area down here. There we are. That is the gap. If it does close that, well, then we could see lower levels. But for now, it's holding on, and there's positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating likely higher levels on S&P 500 in the coming week or two or something like that. The Nasdaq 100 bounced a little bit, also 0.7% up in yesterday's market. We have also see the gap here, and just to very quickly draw a trend line, that's the lower part of the gap. If it does close below that, well, then we could see further selling pressure. But RSI is positive. There's no divergence on the RSI, indicating likely higher levels, at least on the short term. Medium term, there is massive divergence, so we are a bit stressed. But let's see what it can do in today's session. The Dow Jones didn't do much, trading around the 38.2 retracement at 43,400, but there's no divergence here either. So we should see a rebound fairly shortly, but we are still in a correction phase. On the European market, EUROSTOXX 50 below 4,800, but it still has this bottom reversal-like pattern, which is not that strong, I would say, because we are below all moving averages and we are in a downtrend, which is of course normal when we have a bottom reversal pattern, but it's not that long a downtrend. So I'm not quite sure how strong it will be, because I don't expect the EUROSTOXX 50 to just move very bullish here in the short term at least. It needs to get back above 4,900 really to establish a bullish trend. The DAX index, it is key that it's still holding on above 19,000. If it also had this volatile candle here, it's really 19,000 is the key for DAX. Really, it's still holding on by its nails to push higher. But if it does close below 19,000, I expect a sell-off. The Amsterdam index, well, the 858 is still holding on. The CAC index, well, still in a downtrend. This shoulder-head-shoulder-like pattern is unfolding. There's potential down to 7,100. The Swiss market in a downtrend closed just above 11,630, but it is in a downtrend, could push lower. Expect a little bit bounce though. Euro dollar, well, bouncing continues a little bit lower this morning, but I still believe we could see a push up to the 106.65, which is the 38.2 retracement of this downtrend here. There is a little bit of divergence on the RSI. You can see that this level here is higher than this one over here, indicating a short-term trend exhaustion, and the bounce up to at least 106.65 should be seen. If it takes out 105 or the lows here from last week, then expect a push below 104.50. Cable sterling dollar, well, bouncing from the 126, should also be able to push up to 127.70, but it is in a downtrend, of course, and the RSI is not showing divergence with a negative sentiment, so we could push lower, but a little bit of a correction after such a sell-off is usually likely. Euro sterling bounced to almost to 61.8 at 83.76, just a few cents from it, and could turn around here if it moves back below 83.30. Then I believe the downtrend will resume and it will be confirmed. If it moves back below 83, then I expect a further selling pressure to increase on euro. Dollar yen is in this exhaustive phase here, still trading around the lower rising trend line in this challenge-like pattern here. I still believe we will see a correction lower. Key support here around 151.45-ish. It was a dip below, a little bit below, but we have the 200 moving average coming up there, giving some support in this region there. If it takes out the peak here from yesterday, 156.75, it could push higher to 157.70, maybe even higher. But as we can see, and we talked about it for days now, on the medium term, you can see, well, it actually reads just a few cents from it, the 786 retracement of the entire downtrend right there. On the euro yen corrected to the 38.2 retracement at 162.28, just above the support here at 161.90, and the 55 moving average coming up, giving some support. RSI is still in a positive sentiment, and if it does break above and close above its falling trend line here, there's good indication that it will resume uptrend despite breaking bearish out of this rising wedge-like pattern here. And then it could resume uptrend towards 168. However, if it takes out 161.90, then expect selling down to 160, maybe even down to, there's some strong support down here in this region here, around 158.5, maybe even lower. But the RSI will be key here, because there's no divergence indicating we are likely to see euro yen bouncing higher, but if it takes out that 161.90, then that could be cancelled and downtrend could continue. The Aussie yen 99 is the key support to look out for. There's also some support here at 98, but 99 is key support. If it breaks below that, close below, well, and the RSI also below 40, then expect selling pressure to increase to lower levels. Sterling yen is a little bit frustrating what it does. I mean, it opened the lower yesterday, but closed back above the 195.37 support. But it has established a downtrend, but it's not confirmed by the RSI, which is still showing positive sentiment. So if it does close below 40, meaning if we take out the low from yesterday at 194, well, then I think we will see further selling pressure towards 190 level. But for now, it's still holding on a little bit. If it takes out the 198.45, that bearish candle there, well, then we could see a push towards 200. Aussie dollar bouncing off 64.50, actually a little bit below that, 64.40. This is in the range from what we saw back here in July and August. Should be able to bounce to 38.2 at 65.35, but there should be potential higher up to the 61.8 retracement at 65.93, just below 66. There should be potential to that, but let's see. We are in divergence here on the RSI, showing that, meaning a little bit of trend exhaustion. But if we're looking at the weekly chart very quickly, we can see that it is in a bearish trend. It is below the cloud. The RSI did close below 40, so it should continue low. However, we are down here where it usually turns around, so we could see a fairly strong bounce. So keep an eye on those levels. If it takes out 64.40, well, then there's potential down to 63 and lower. The dollar Canada cross. Dollar Canada, we talked about yesterday that it was an exhaustive move that spiked higher to 141 and a little bit, almost back to 38.2 at 139 at 139.97. I think we will see a correction down to the 61.8 at 139.30. Given that we also have divergence on the RSI. However, on the medium term, as we talked about for quite some time, it is in a bullish trend and likely to push higher. On the very quickly, excuse me, on the sterling Canada, well, it's still in this range here, and key support at 176.80. Swiss pairs, we have Euro Swiss still holding on at this 93.30, 33, and the 93 that is key. RSI is negative, so we should see it push lower, and we have all the moving average declining. So the underlying trend is bearish. It's just holding on above this, and we are below the cloud, so it should push lower, but for now it's holding on. So if it takes out 94.50, well, then I think we could see a push up to 95, but for now I still believe we are to the downside. Dollar Swiss, well, after this push towards 89.25, a correction down to 88, it's very close to that. We could correct down to 87.5, maybe 87.30, which is the 61.8 retracement. If it takes out the 89.25, well, then there's potential up to 90. The dollar index almost got up to 105. There should now be correction down to around 105.57, which is a 38.2 retracement. Also showing divergence on the RSI, meaning a trend exhaustion mode here. If it takes out that level, then there is potential higher. If we look at the weekly chart, we can see that right there, which is why it's such a key level, 107.05 key level. Then we are suddenly up here in the 110s, but I think we'll see at least a short term a correction lower. Gold is continuing its bounce off the support area here at 25.46, where it's dipped a little bit below. We had the 100 moving average giving some support. So 38.2 at 26.33 is very close to be reached, and I think we could also bounce all the way up to the 61.8 at 26.93, but will be a little bit stressed. However, we are still above the cloud. We didn't close below it, which is a fairly strong signal. The RSI is, however, still in a negative sentiment. So if it's being rejected here, we could see another push towards the support area. If it takes it out, well, then we're looking at 24.80, 24.70 supported. But I think we will push higher. We can also see the 55 moving average is dragging up a little bit, so still a rising mode, and the 100, which is giving some support. So I think we'll see this area being tested here, possibly today or tomorrow. The silver. Excuse me, the silver, I think we'll see a test of the 38.2 at 31.66. We are back above 31. We are back above the cloud. We just touched the bottom down here, and that is a fairly strong signal also, despite having some RSI divergence. If it closes above the falling trend line here, then I think we could see a push higher, and if we get RSI to close back above 60 threshold, well, then there's potential up to 33 level, which is the 61.8 here, just below that. If it turns around and takes out $30 again, then I think we could see a push towards 29. On copper, well, it doesn't really do much. It can't really get its act together and bounce higher. There should be at least up to 418, 419, and maybe even 429, 430. But we are in a downtrend and it looks fairly heavy. But it did close above the 400 and also be above 404, which is a little bit of support area. We have it's actually very strong support area here, and I think we'll bounce up to this region here in the next few days. Energy side, well, we saw the WTI bouncing higher after testing this 66.72 minor support, and actually formed this bullish engulfing pattern here that should give it a little bit more potential higher, but it needs to get back above 72.5. Brent crude oil, well, also bounced here, forming this bullish engulfing bottom reversal pattern, could push higher towards the key resistance here, 76.54, and the cloud area, but it is not that convincing, I would say, but that's the range I would keep an eye on. The Dutch gas, and here we need to also look at the weekly chart. The Dutch TTF gas is pushing higher, closed higher yesterday, as we can see here, and it is still slowly crawling higher towards the 56, 54 level, where we have some strong resistance, but we are in a bullish trend, short term and medium term. The Henry Hub gas still also trying to get out of this triangle-like pattern here on the weekly, with potential up to 364 level. It didn't close above $3. That is the key level I think we really need to see. And if we also add a little bit of there we have 302, some resistance there, and then there's potential to 316 and 360 level. US 10-year Treasury yields still holding on in the 440 region after touching almost 450. I think we will see a correction lower. Here we can see on the weekly what's such an important key level. I mean, it has closed above the falling trend line, but I need confirmation above 448 to close above on at least daily, and preferably I would say 450, because that's I think it's a psychological level, really, 450. We are above the cloud. We are in a positive sentiment. Let's just double check here. Yeah, we are in a positive sentiment on the weekly RSI. So it should push higher, but I think there's so much psychology. And also after this very strong move here from September until now, I think we'll see a correction down to at least around 430. So keep an eye on this 450 level. That is really, really key. The 2-year, well, still potential up to 437, but it is a bit stressed at the moment, and I think we just need to adjust this one a little bit. The correction hasn't kicked in yet, but there is correction potential down to around 4%, 406. There is divergence on the RSI indicating likely trend exhaustion, and there's some strong resistance up here. On the European side, we have the EUROBUND future still in this range here between 132 and 70. And what I will do, I will adjust this one because it seems like this is the range we are going to trade in, 131.28. Break below that, well, then I think we'll see downtrend resuming. And finally, the UK Gilts also just trading sideways here, trying to establish a bottom. We had a bullish engulfing here, we had a bullish engulfing here. So it's really trying to get back up there, but it needs to break above 94.47 for upside potential to 96 area. All right, that's all for today. Talk to you again later, and where we're going to discuss Nvidia tomorrow morning.